One of the oldest modules of Plait is the recruitment module. This is enabled by removing the paper-based value from this field here, which causes these two tabs to appear on the organisation form. On the first tab, you set up who is the main contact for the organisation, various texts for emails that the recruitment system can generate, and you can see that you can put in parameters in these emails to personalise them. You can also set up a list of reasons why you might reject an applicant, and optionally you can set up an email to explain in detail why that is the cause of rejection. You can set up cover letters for reference requests, both email and snail mail. And finally, you can set up lists of recruitment sources and withdrawal reasons. We'll come back to the other tab later. The simplest way of putting a new applicant onto the system is by selecting Applicant from the New menu. This is available regardless of how the third-party recruitment system is set up. It's very similar to creating a new care worker within the system. The first thing you need to do is select which organisation the applicant is trying to get work with, and that works in the same way as it does for a care worker. I'm going to say that they want to work for the whole organisation rather than just restrict them to one team. I can change it later. I then need to fill in their demographic details. At least one of the 3 contact methods must be populated. Then I need to answer a bunch of questions about their suitability for the job. You can see that their status is currently set to incomplete, but when I save the record, it's set to completed. And it then appears as an alert on the home page. At this point, we should talk about the other methods of getting an applicant onto the system. Firstly, if you have an application form on your website, you can get your website to directly call Plait to create an application. You'll normally need to get your website developer to talk to us about how to do that. Secondly, you can get Plait to look at emails and see if they are job applications. These emails might come from Indeed or a similar website. You set up where Plait looks for emails on this tab here that we skipped earlier. This is a complicated process, and you'll need to get assistance from our support team to do that. In the second case, the application email will generally not have all the required data on the application form filled in, so the system sends a link back to the applicant so that they can complete the whole form. Once they've done so, then that application status is set to completed, and it will appear as an alert in the same way as an application entered in the office. You can see that new applications have alerts on the home page. There are other alert types set up for recruitment. Let's have a look at them. These 7 unsuppressed alert types all relate to recruitment and will guide you through the recruitment workflow, including collecting references. Now let's go back and look at our application. Typically, we'll decide on one of 3 ways to proceed, and we might end up shortlisting somebody, inviting them for interview, rejecting them, or there's a third, less obvious case, and that's pending, which we would use for we need more info. And there's context menu options for each of those, so in reverse order. If we need some more information from somebody, we would typically phone them up and try and get that information, but if they don't answer, then we would send them this email, and when we send the email, it'll set the status to pending, which will remove them from the alerts, and then we would look them up when they phone us back, if they phone us back. There's another email to offer or confirm an interview, and we choose the date here and the time there, which updates the date and time in the email. The email format is set in the recruitment tab of the organisation form, and when we send that, it sets the status to shortlisted, and they get removed from the alerts until 1 hour after the time of the interview. And then the third one is rejection, and here we get to choose the reason for rejection. Clearly you would have more than this, and some of them, as you saw earlier, can come with some specified text set up again on that recruitment tab. And when I click send there, it'll set both the status to rejected and the reason to the one that you selected. And there's an option here on the context menu to encourage people to register their DBSs when you get one back. Now let's look at what happens after an interview has taken place. An alert is raised after the interview was due to have taken place to remind you to take the next steps. And if you click on that, you get taken to this form where you can update the demographic data and the application questions, but additionally you can enter contacts, including character references on the People tab and employment history on the Career tab. At the bottom of the Application tab, the Status Select enables us to record the outcome of the interview, which will generally be one of withdrawn, which probably means that they didn't turn up for the interview, rejected, again you can select the reason, and accepted, which will almost certainly be subject to references and status checks. We'll now see how the system helps us collect a character reference and an employee reference. For the character reference, we firstly have to enter the referee by doing New Contact. And if we right-click on there, we can open it in a new tab. So I can close this tab now, and go back here and add a contact. And if I look for Barry, get Barry Jones, and it's important that I select character reference as the type, and I could put in, oops, the relationship there. For the employer reference, we go to the Career tab and we click Add, and we set the period start. And we select the activity type. And it's only really the employed activity that has any interest to us here. So we can put the employer name. The next few fields are not mandatory. The important thing is that if either reference or vulnerable people or both are ticked, you get these additional fields here, the contact name and contact method, and this will be used to request the reference. And if we choose the contact method of email, we'll be asked to put in an email, and if we choose the contact method of post, we'll be asked to put in a snail mail address. We're just going to put in an email here. Save that record, and you can immediately see that we've got this orange button here to generate the reference request. But we're not going to do that because we're going to have a look at the alerts, which, as you can see, are prompting us to create both a work and a character reference for Jenny Smith. Now, it doesn't matter what order you do this in fact both of these links will take you to the same place. We'll generate the work reference first, so we'll just check that we're happy with everything there, and we click that and the orange button goes away. If we go back to the home page, we can see that there's a slight difference here. We're still being asked to generate the character reference, but we're being told that we need to send the employer reference. So let's generate the character reference first. And now we've generated it, it takes us to this the HR tab of the care worker form. We've got both of our references. We can see that they're both generated, and we could click on either of them and drill down to it and send it, but we can also do that from here. So let's do it from here, seeing as we're here now. And there is the reference request. This is the recruiter view of the of the reference, so there's a couple of fields there that the referee won't see. And we are going to request the reference. So what happens there is that the system generates an email using the template that we saw earlier, and that template will go to John Smith, and John will have a link in the email which he will be able to use to populate the reference. So we'll send that email to him, and then we'll go back to the home page and we see that we still have to send the character reference. So we'll do that. You can see, by the way, here that the status of the reference is generated, and down at the bottom there's a history of status changes. That will become more interesting as we go through the steps. So we're going to request this reference, and again we've got a link for Barry. So we send Barry's email, and if we go to the home page now, we have no alerts because we're just waiting for those references to be filled in. After a few days we would get an alert to chase the references if they hadn't arrived, but that's not going to happen in this video. So now we are in the place where John Smith will be when he's clicked on the link in the email that we just sent a few seconds ago. So we can see that he's given the name of the applicant, he's given his company name, but everything else can be changed. So if John Smith is not the appropriate contact for reference, then Alan Jones can do it instead. The red fields are mandatory, so we are requiring them to give a name and a phone number and an employment start date, which could be approximate, and we could validate that against their claimed employment start date and the job title. But all of the more detailed questions are not mandatory. In fact, they default to refuse to say, because it is really quite hard to get more information than the absolute minimum out of employers. And once John has filled in as much as he's prepared to fill in, he can click on the submit button, and he gets thanked for his efforts. And if we were to log back into Plait now, we will see that we have an alert to check and verify the employer reference. So let's click on that, and we can now see the populated reference, not very populated as you can see. And now if we look at the history here, the status history, we can see when it was generated, when it was requested, and when we received it, and who did the actions in each case. And the idea here is that we phone John Smith, or in fact Alan Jones, sorry. We phone Alan Jones and try and get sort of confirmation that he really is an ex-employer, and maybe he's prepared to say a little bit more on the phone than he was here, so there is a space to make notes there. It may be that he is happy to send some sort of document, and that could be attached here. And when you've put in your follow-up comments, you save the reference, and then you can accept it. And we now go to status checked, and that's the last status. And if we were to go to Jenny's care worker record now, we'll see that she has a work reference which was requested and accepted, and that's the thing that's just happened, is me accepting it, whereas the personal reference has been requested but has not yet arrived, and those statuses are also shown there. So now we look at what it's like for Barry. When he clicks on his link, he gets a slightly different form, higher percentage of mandatory fields. I can't actually remember what Barry's surname was, so we'll just leave it as Barry. And she claimed he was a teacher. So years, and she has to put in something, very nice person, whatever. And he submits his form, and he also gets a thank you. And log into the system. You can see that we've now got a prompt to check and verify the character reference for Jenny. We click on that, Jones. We call Barry Jones on this number and make any comments that we want to. We save the record, and then we can accept this reference. And just click here to go to Jenny's record. We can see that she's got all the ticks on her work reference and personal reference, and both of these are checked. Anytime we want to, we can go back and see the detail of the references just by clicking on one of those links.